Hello and welcome to the middle of New York City. Obviously not. Actually, we're at the bottom of Windsor Terrace in Brooklyn. We're in front of this cool church. We've come a little bit of a long way to a pretty normal neighborhood, but that's because it has some very interesting, very normal cars and this interesting motorcycle. But I think they're super cool. Let's check them out. Yeah, come on. This is our second take of the intro because the first one, I don't know what I did wrong. But I just noticed that this Yaris, little three-door, it's with a stick. See? It's the theme of the episode. Normal cars, but they're cool. Cool normal cars. And you'll see a lot of cars which are very plain and may look normal to you, viewer, but to someone who spends their day in Manhattan are very interesting because you don't see any normal cars whatsoever. Do you want to go first to the most interesting one? Or maybe to the second most? I mean, there are interesting cars right here. Okay, let's go to the interesting one. Well, hold on. Let's also just point out that we've got a two-door Explorer. That's cool. And, arguably, the most invisible car in New York City, the second generation Toyota Camry, which will come up later in the rest of the episode. Actually, while we're here, quick, let's go a little bit farther down the street. These are very quiet streets, not a lot of people on them. It's super residential over here. So you get some cars which are little hideaway cars. No one is messing with these cars. So here we are. We have a Volkswagen Cabrio. And now you can tell quickly by looking at it that this is really a design rooted in the 70s. Look at its little taillights, its bumper, which is not integrated, as you could call it, like on a modern car. Here, look at this one. This is an example where you can see how this one has been dented. But you can see how the body smooths in with the bumper. You see that? It's an integrated bumper. That traces back to Pontiac in the early 1970s. I want to say 1974 with the Enduro bumpers. Neither here nor there. But you see this one, it's distinct. It's its own thing. This is like other designs of the 70s. You can see it's super boxy. And the year that this car is actually sold is 1992, which was because they just kept making this car for a gazillion years because people kept buying it, which is one of those like weird things with convertibles is you could just sell them for forever and people keep buying them and they never change them. Like the Chrysler Sebring or something. Look at the face. This is a very 70s face as well. You've got what old car blogs would call quad rounds. This is like a super 70s or 80s thing, but it's a 92, which is funny. Speaking of another car of this era, as we meander farther away from the place where we're supposed to be going, this is just a charmer for New York. This immaculately kept Bmw E30. This one being a 325. You can see this is that same sort of face, but this is an 80s car. This is the sort of one step up from the Golf Cabrio thematically. This is also a Euro yuppie sort of car. Note its trim lines. Note its very Bauhausy, utilitarian. Where are these, 14s? They're 14s. So this is funny, is BMW people of this era talk about their engines sort of in the same way that Subaru people talk about their engines. It's very difficult for anyone who's outside of the scene to really grasp what's going on that's different about them. It was all the same basic architecture of a straight six engine, but it came in, which was I think the M20, but it came in different displacements, and they had some which were good, some which were bad, though they had overlapping. Some of the things that you would discern between them are overlapping of good ones versus bad ones. The point is, for all of us, you can buy a 325e that's in very good shape, and even though the drivetrain may not be the most enjoyable, this one, the engine in this was actually very similar to the diesel engine that BMW was trying to make. This one only revs to like 4.5 or $5,000, really low revving engine. It's a sports sedan, but it's not actually a very sporty car. But someone like you or I could buy something like this for only a couple grand. You can swap the engine. You can change up the suspension. You can make it into a very sporty car, even if it didn't originally start out like it. So that's why one of the reasons why these things are so coveted by car nerds. Oh man, what a good car. Okay, yeah. So no, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. I could point out the excellent cloth interior. That's a very well-made car. Are these kids going to be playing football in the background of our shot? This is unreal. This is so of another. This whole neighborhood is of a different era. It's like a little chunk of town in which the rest of high-action New York is not really intruded. There used to be a 300ZX which parked around here. Let's look at this nice Subaru. This is the second-gen Legacy wagon. This is a first-gen Legacy wagon. Oh, this is the car with the moose on it that I was telling you about. C70 convertible, hardtop convertible. With a very proud Volvo owner. This is a guy who knows what IPD kits are. Anyway, let us continue as we go up the street to find an interesting vehicle. Oh, is the car running? Oh my God, we can talk to the owner. Let's get in on this. I'm Raphael. This is Aaron, and I told him we had to come out here just to see this thing.
114,889 miles.
Wow.
On there, I bought it brand new in 1988. Never gave me any problems.
Wow.
It's all on the road.
Oh.
So I've been maintaining it, doing the best that I can. It runs like a brand new car.
That's so good to hear. Oh, I love car history. And when these were being made, it was really a high point for Toyota.
Absolutely.
I drove around in an old 92 Camry for the longest time. Anything ever went wrong with it.
The damn best cars that Toyota ever made. But they don't, they do not really make cars like that these days, because I wanted to get a new car. Mm-hmm. But I said, why am I putting a new car on the road?
Let us take in the full stylings of this vehicle. This is a Toyota Corolla. This is the AE92 generation. This is an SR5. They also sold a GTS version. The GTS version was the one that had the twin cam, which is the 4AGE that everyone loves. This is the first front-wheel drive of these Toyota Coupes after the AE86, which was rear-wheel drive. This is the first front-wheel drive one, and a lot of people think of it as just sort of an engine donor sort of car for an AE86, but I think they're super interesting, and they look really cool and are a real high point of bubble era styling. Sort of that late 80s, early 90s stuff when people who aren't super well familiar with all this stuff, but this is a real high point in the Japanese economy. They had tons and tons of money, and they really invested in making their cars overbuilt. And so cars like this, you still see them on the road, even though they're 30 years old. It's just they're fantastic. They talk about how they don't make them like they used to when they talk about cars from the 50s and 60s, like big Detroit cars. But when it comes to Japanese cars, absolutely they don't build them like they used to. Not like this anymore. Made to last. Oh, it's so good. The other thing I'll point out very briefly is if you look at the headlights, this is a very optimistic era. And so people now like it for having pop-up headlights, which they think of as being sort of retro. But if you look at the headlights in front of it, they're these super slim little headlights, which really foresage or presage our current like trend of headlights getting narrower and narrower and narrower with like LED lighting and laser lighting and all that stuff. These are things that designers were playing with 30 years ago, even though they didn't quite have all of the technology that they needed now to make it work. They still had the design ideas of how it would look all the way back in the late 80s into the early 90s. Hello and welcome to Car Spotting. We're in Windsor Terrace. We're going to look at some cool, interesting, normal cars. The first of which, I don't know if it's actually going to be the first of which. This may be in the middle of the video. I just get very excited. Is this two-tone with a third-tone pinstriping? I believe it is a Kia Spectra. This thing actually used to park a little bit further over on the other side of Prospect Park, but for whatever reason it happens to have graced us with its presence. Please take it in and enjoy it. It is a vehicle of great. It's so fantastic. Do you know what I like about this vehicle? Is a lot of people will say, oh, this is just a Kia from the early 2000s. Why would I possibly care about it? I'll tell you why. This person, whoever owns this thing, takes pride in it, cares for it. you see 100 BMWs, which are just silver. You know, someone has it. They don't really care about it. They only want it just to have it. Whoever has this Kia loves it so much more than like 90% of people love their cars. Enough to get it in two-tone. Oh, it's so good. Nice wheels on it. D-badged. Great attitude. Kid seat in the back. All right, so let's wrap up this very snivelly cold episode in the final days of winter transitioning to spring. I will try not to get distracted by the Toyota Land Cruiser FJ80 across the way, lifted with some rally lights and some things on it. Not getting distracted. Staying undistracted. Going to look at a car that I like, which is weird, but also normal. Kind of like the neighborhood. Neither here nor there. Anyway, I don't know if you can see it yet. It's a Nissan NX2000. I think also sold as the Pulsar NX2000. Have I walked up to it? Yes. Yes, I have. This is our second interesting Japanese front-wheel drive coupe with a cool twin-cam engine under the hood of the day. Okay, look at this beautiful sculpted aerodynamic face. Look at this cool coupe body style with T-tops. And, is it a manual? It is! This thing is friggin' tight. So, not a lot of car people really know why this thing is interesting because it is front-wheel drive. And for many years, the car people just think, oh, it's front-wheel drive, it's wrong-wheel drive. I don't care about it. Well, they're missing out on an interesting car. Under the hood, this being an NX2000, Nissan nerds may have already come to the conclusion that, yes, this has an SR20 under the hood. And I think this was a DE, but not a DET, so I think these are non-turbo, but they are twin-cam. So the SR20 was the popular engine that was in the Nissan Silvia. It wasn't the engine that we got in the 240SX. It was the desirable engine. So that was the one that Nissan really put a decent amount of money into in the 80s to design. It was the successor to the Nissan FJ20, which was really sort of the engine which sparked off the whole age of twin-cam, 16-valve, 4-cylinder performance engines in Japan. And the SR20 was produced for a long period of time. Very, it has a mixed reputation of how temperamental it is, but it's really a legendary engine in terms of performance. You can make a ton of power from them. They made them for a gazillion years. They're available. They're tunable. There's a giant aftermarket. It's the Nissan engine to end all Nissan engines, unless you're talking about something bigger like an RB 20-something 6-cylinder. But the SRs are really cool. And these ones have them. And more than just being an engine swap away from being something cool, this isn't just something that you tear out the engine to dump into your 240 drift car. This is also a very interesting and cool sporty coupe. This is the third and final piece of a line of 3 weird sporty two-doors, which didn't really make a lot of sense in the modern context. It's just a small car which is economical. It's kind of like a commuter car in the same way that the Honda CRX or even the Pontiac Fiero was. But this one is front-wheel drive. It's got tiny rear seats in this one. The one before it had a wagon back that you could take off. The one before that had weird little pop-up headlights and was absolutely tiny. But this was the last one and may actually be the best one to drive. Every so often you see these things pop up in rallycross events. They're pretty light, they're pretty powerful, and they're just really, really neat and come from a time when these cars are really well made. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Car Spotting. We've been out here at Windsor Terrace. Here we are looking over the Prospect Expressway. You, fair viewer, are going to leave. Me, I'm just going to spend the rest of this time looking at cars going by and IDing every single last one of them. Now, you may see some cars in your own time. viewers, let us know. Send in the best cars that you've seen to tips@jalopnik.com. We get cool tips all the time. We love those cars. You like cars, we like cars, send them in. We all love them. We love to see them. The cars, they're out there. They're great. And with that, I think we'll keep in mind more neighborhoods to go look for. We're not actually sure where the next one is going to be. Maybe we'll finish up that 3-part series on super fun sites and go visit nearby Gowanus, which is just a little over there. Maybe we'll meander to some other Manhattan neighborhood. I don't know. But the cars are there, and we're here, and soon the cars and us will be in unison together, looking at each other together online. Oh, what? Oh, look at this! Oh, the crackle of the V10 rings us goodbye. Goodbye to South Brooklyn. Goodbye to V10. And goodbye to car spotting. Take care. Ciao. You're watching Car Spotting. It's spring. We're here in Brooklyn in Windsor Terrace, a kind of normal neighborhood with some interesting normal cars. Let's check them out. But the design really traces its roots back to the... How you doing, Aaron? What's up? What are you trying to tell me?
No, nothing. I'm just chilling.
You
know?
give me a look.
No, I can see Justin doing a little Instagram story from the corner of my eye. You know.
Okay. All right, hold on. Okay.
What?
I thought you were trying to tell me something.
No, I was
would tell me
enjoying your
right.
banter about the Cabrio.
Oh, we didn't look at the Jag. Not in this episode. Not in this episode. Is a very good 1960s Jaguar which parks on the street. It's south of here. We'll get to it in another episode. Quit bothering me. I have to leave. There's a R32 Volkswagen. Oh, and a lowered Integra. So many cars. Hooray!